He was 74. Sitting across from me in my office, his hands trembling, not because of disease, not because of age, but because of something far more common and far more silent. He looked me in the eye and said, "Doctor, I didn't know I was hurting myself." That sentence stayed with me. Because he wasn't alone. Not by a long shot. I'm Dr. Mohit Kara, a urologist with more than 30 years helping older men preserve their vitality, privacy, and dignity. And I'm here to tell you what most doctors won't. After 60, masturbation changes, and if you don't adapt to those changes, it can quietly reshape your body, your mind, and even your sense of masculinity. You've probably heard that it's natural, harmless, maybe even healthy, and yes, that can be true. But if I told you that how you do it matters far more than you think, would you believe me? In this video, I'm going to share 5 powerful truths, secrets, really, about masturbation that older men wish they'd known earlier. Truths that can protect your blood flow, safeguard your prostate, and even reignite your confidence. And I want you to stay with me until the end, because that last truth might change the way you age, connect, and live for the rest of your life. I know this conversation may feel overdue, but it's not too late to start. If you haven't already, I'd encourage you to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an age-specific, no-nonsense health tip designed just for men like you. And if this topic is already hitting home, just type 1 in the comments below so I know you're here, you're listening, and you're ready to take control. Let's begin with the first truth, a quiet shift that has completely reshaped the lives of many men once they finally understood it. An erection is no longer the whole story, and that's perfectly okay. I'll never forget the moment a 72-year-old man looked at me, defeated and embarrassed, and said, "Doctor, I can't do what I used to do. Does that mean I'm not a man anymore?" My heart broke a little hearing that, because I've heard that same fear, again and again, from men who walk into my office in silent panic over a change they were never prepared for. They notice things aren't as firm, fast, or reliable as they used to be. And most assume it's the end of their sex life altogether. But here's what I wish every man over 60 knew: an erection is not the whole story anymore. And it's not a failure, it's an evolution. You see, as we age, our bodies naturally change. Blood flow slows. Hormones fluctuate. Nerve responses take their time. What once seemed automatic now requires patience, intention, and yes, a little grace. But that doesn't mean your sex life is broken. In fact, it can become more meaningful than ever once you stop measuring it only by stiffness. The world we grew up in glorified performance. Masculinity was tied to endurance. Weakness had no place. Nobody pulled us aside to say, "Hey, pleasure still matters. Connection still matters." And no one told us that you don't need a perfect erection to have both. For years, I've had patients who believed they were somehow defective when all they really needed was a new understanding of how their bodies were evolving. Many never realized that orgasm and erection are not the same thing. You can still experience emotional intimacy, deep release, and physical satisfaction, even if your response isn't the same as it was at 25. But because no one teaches us that, so many men suffer in silence, thinking they've lost something that was never truly gone, just changed. The important thing now is not performance, but presence. Not pressure, but permission. When you stop chasing what used to be, and start exploring who you are now, you unlock a new kind of intimacy. One rooted in patience, curiosity, and self-respect. That's why this first truth matters so much. I've seen lives change when men finally understood that they are still whole, still worthy, and still capable of pleasure, even if the path looks different than it did before. And speaking of things most men never get told, let me share the second truth. This one goes even deeper. Because what if I told you masturbation isn't just about sex? It's also about memory, emotion, and the quiet way we connect with ourselves. What you're about to hear might completely change how you see this private act. If you're still watching, and these truths are resonating with you, drop a 1 in the comments. Let me know you're still here, still listening, still open. Because what comes next may shift how you see yourself and your body in an entirely new way. The second truth, masturbation is not just sexual. It's emotional. It's neurological. Not long ago, I sat with a retired veteran in his late 70s. His name was Howard. He wasn't in my office for an emergency. He came in and, in his own words, said, "I just don't feel anything anymore." Not sexually. Just, in general. At first, he thought his struggles were physical. But the more we talked, the clearer it became, his habit wasn't about desire. It was about something deeper, quieter, more emotional. Howard had been masturbating nearly every night. Not from arousal, but as a way to cope. He didn't even realize it had become his way to manage sadness, sleep issues, even loneliness. That moment shifted how I saw him and how he saw himself. This is a truth I wish more older men knew. After 60, masturbation is often not just about physical release. It's linked to your brain, your emotions, your nervous system. After orgasm, your body releases powerful chemicals, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. These regulate sleep, ease anxiety, lift mood. For many older men, especially those living alone, this simple act becomes a way to feel connected, calm, even in control. But when done without awareness, it can slowly turn into something hollow. That's what happened to Howard. The ritual remained, but the meaning had faded. We're raised to be tough, to bury feelings, to believe that deep emotion makes us weak. So when the only time we allow ourselves to fully let go is in the privacy of self-touch, that act becomes more than physical. It becomes survival. But most men never look at it that way. They think they're just clinging to a habit from their youth. They don't realize their body is still seeking peace, not just pleasure. The danger isn't in the act itself. It's in doing it unconsciously. If you're masturbating to numb, to kill time, or to escape feelings you haven't named, you might slowly lose your ability to connect with yourself on a deeper level. But when you approach it with intention, with presence, it becomes something healing. Something honest. A form of emotional clarity and nervous system care. And yes, at your age, that still matters. More than ever. Now, if that truth surprised you, the next one might feel even more urgent. Because what if I told you that doing nothing at all, that leaving that part of yourself untouched, could quietly be doing more harm than good? What you're about to hear might explain changes in your body that no one ever warned you about. The third truth, the rule use it or lose it, is real, but it's been misunderstood. I remember Roy clearly. 74 years old. Widowed. Just beginning to date again after over a decade of solitude. When he came to see me, he was a mixture of excitement and shame. "I finally found someone," he said, "but my body, it doesn't work anymore." You could hear the heartbreak in his voice. He thought something was broken. That it was too late. But what he didn't know, what so many older men are never told, is that it wasn't dysfunction. It was disuse. Here's a secret I wish every man over 60 understood earlier. Your sexual function isn't just tied to age. It's tied to activity. Just like muscles weaken without use, the tissues and blood vessels in your penis respond to how often they're engaged. Without stimulation, over time, they begin to atrophy. Nerve endings dull. Elasticity fades. Circulation slows. And tragically, no one tells you this is happening until it already has. Roy hadn't touched himself in years. Not because he didn't want to, but because he thought it no longer mattered. Life had dampened his desire. He let it go, thinking it was just a natural part of aging. But inside, his body had quietly adjusted to that neglect, closing doors that might have stayed open with just a little attention. The good news? It wasn't too late. With gentle, consistent stimulation, no pressure, just presence, he began to feel again. It wasn't instant. But slowly, his body remembered. And with it, a part of his confidence came back. So many older men believe that unless they have a partner, their sexual health isn't worth maintaining. That belief isn't just wrong, it's harmful. At this stage in life, masturbation isn't just about pleasure. It's about keeping your systems running, your tissues healthy, your body engaged. The simple, powerful truth? You still matter. And your body still wants to respond if you give it the chance. But if not using it can lead to quiet damage, what about the opposite? What if the way you're staying sexually active is actually rewiring your brain in the wrong direction? In the next truth, I'm going to show you something that's become nearly invisible in the lives of older men, but could be silently dulling your senses, killing your desire, and changing how you feel about real intimacy. And if you're still with me, and if this is hitting home, go ahead and comment 1 below. I want to know you're still here. Still ready. Let's move into truth number 4. Truth number 4. Porn may be silently destroying your sexual reflex, and you might not even realize it. It was late one evening when I had a conversation with Ernest. He was 68, a widower, and had been quietly struggling with a strange kind of numbness, not just physically, but emotionally. He looked at me and said something I've heard too many times: I still touch myself, but I feel disconnected. Like nothing really reaches me anymore. At first, he thought it was just age. But the more we talked, the clearer it became. His nightly habit of watching pornography, the thing he turned to for comfort, for stimulation, had silently begun stealing something from him. His ability to feel, to connect, to imagine. This is a truth many older men wish they'd known earlier. When your brain gets used to porn as the main source of stimulation, it starts adapting to that experience. And if you've been doing that for years, even decades, your brain, especially as it gets older, becomes less flexible. It starts rewiring itself to respond only to that high-intensity, fast-reward input. And that comes at a cost. Real connection begins to feel flat. Real bodies, real moments, even your own touch, don't excite you the same way anymore. It's not that you've lost desire. It's that your brain has been hijacked by a loop that no longer serves you. Porn triggers a surge of dopamine, a brain chemical tied to reward and motivation. But the kind of dopamine released from porn is extreme. It's artificial. Over time, your brain starts needing more stimulation, more novelty, more intensity just to feel the same spark. And before you know it, the genuine, slow, sensual touch of a real person, or even of yourself, feels dull, distant, or not enough. What makes this especially dangerous for older men is how slowly it creeps in. At first, it feels harmless. A comfort. A little escape. But one day you wake up and realize the images on the screen turn you on more than real connection ever could. That your imagination is silent. That your body feels numb even though your mind still wants to feel. Ernest described it to me like being trapped in a room with the lights on, but no windows. He could see, but he couldn't connect. Together, we worked to slowly help him break free from that dependency. Not with shame. Not with rules. But with patience. And what happened next surprised even him. Within just a few weeks, he began to feel again. Sensation returned. His sensitivity woke up. His imagination came alive. All because he stepped away from the screen and stepped back into his own body, his breath, and his inner world. And I just wish he had started sooner. It could have spared him years of quiet numbness. That's the power this has. It can dull your senses quietly, without you even knowing it's happening. Now, we come to the fifth and final truth. The one that pulls all the others together. Because underneath all the silence, all the shame, all the confusion that surrounds this topic, there's something profoundly important that older men deserve to know. Something that could change how you see yourself and your health for good. Truth number 5, masturbation can be a lifeline, not a burden. A man named Walter once sat across from me during a routine checkup. He was 75. Gentle voice. Polite manner. And just as he was about to leave, he paused, hesitated, then asked, "Doctor, am I still allowed to touch myself at this age?" That question stopped me, not because it was strange, but because I've heard it so many times. Always whispered. always wrapped in quiet shame, as if admitting that need was something to be embarrassed about. But here's what Walter, and so many others, didn't realize. And what I deeply wish every older man knew: masturbation is not something to hide. At your age, it can be one of the most important acts of self-care you still have. The truth is, when done with intention and presence, masturbation supports much more than your sexual satisfaction. It helps keep the pelvic tissues healthy by promoting blood flow. It supports prostate function by helping to clear out fluids that would otherwise stagnate. It eases anxiety, lifts mood, improves sleep thanks to the natural release of calming neurotransmitters in the brain. But beyond biology, it does something else, something even more important. It helps you stay connected to the part of you that still desires, that still holds identity, that still wants to feel. Walter had stopped everything when his wife passed. He believed that chapter of his life had ended. For nearly 6 years, he denied himself even a moment of pleasure. "I didn't think it was appropriate," he admitted. "I didn't think I was allowed to be that kind of man anymore." That sentence has echoed in my mind ever since, because I've heard it, in different words, from so many others. We live in a culture that tells older men to shrink, to grow quiet, to stop feeling. But that's a cruel myth. Desire doesn't vanish. It just becomes quieter. And if you don't listen to it, it turns into loneliness. When Walter began gently reconnecting with himself, no pressure, no goals, his mood lifted. His sleep improved. He laughed more. He wasn't chasing youth. He was reclaiming dignity. That's what masturbation can become in old age, not an escape, but a return. A way of saying, I still matter. And now that you've heard all 5 truths, there's one more message I want you to take with you. Something that ties it all together. Something that cuts through the science and goes straight to the heart of aging with strength, confidence, and self-respect. These 5 truths about masturbation are not just medical facts. They're hard-earned insights, born from real lives, real regrets, real awakenings, from men who quietly wished they had known sooner. We started by dismantling the myth that your erection defines your masculinity. So many men have spent years in quiet panic, not knowing that pleasure and connection can still be deeply fulfilling, even if the mechanism has changed. Then we explored how masturbation isn't just physical, it's emotional, even neurological. The kind of act that, when done with awareness, can ground you in a way nothing else can. You saw how not using it isn't harmless. It can cause your body to forget what it once knew well, but with consistency, presence, and patience, it can remember. We talked about the hidden cost of pornography, how it silently rewires your brain away from true intimacy, making your own body and real connection feel distant. And finally, we arrived at the truth that most men never hear, that masturbation, especially at your age, is not a source of shame. It can be a means of staying connected to your identity, your body, and your sense of being alive. I've spoken to countless men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s who have told me, I thought that part of my life was over. They believed they had nothing left to feel, nothing left to offer. But what I've learned after decades in this field is this: desire doesn't end. It softens. It changes. But it never disappears. And when you learn to meet your body where it is, not where it used to be, you'll discover something powerful. You are still a man. You are still whole. And you are still worthy. So wherever you are in your journey, whether you're single or partnered, active or just beginning again, I hope these 5 truths help you reclaim what was never really lost, only waiting to be remembered. Your age does not disqualify you from feeling, from healing, from connecting. In fact, it might be the very reason you need to begin. If this message meant something to you, even a little, I'd love to invite you into something more. Leave a comment below and let me know which of these 5 truths resonated with you most. Let me know if you're ready to keep learning, keep growing, and take your health back with dignity. Subscribe and turn on notifications. I share honest, practical guidance made specifically for men over 60. Because your story still matters. You are not invisible. You are not finished. And there's so much connection and vitality still ahead if you're willing to reach for it. And if this video reminds you of someone who needs to hear this, send it to them. You never know the impact a conversation like this might have. Let's break the silence together. You deserve the truth. You deserve support. And above all, you deserve to feel alive again. So, now that we've walked through all 5 truths, honestly, gently, and without judgment, I want to leave you with one final message. Not a summary, not a recap, but a deeper truth. One that doesn't come from science or charts or even medical school, but from decades of sitting across from real men, listening to real pain, and watching real transformation. The truth is this: the silence around this topic has lasted too long. For generations, we've taught men to be strong by suppressing their needs, their feelings, even their most basic instincts. We told them real men don't cry. Real men don't ask for help. Real men certainly don't talk about something as personal and misunderstood as masturbation, especially not after 60. But that silence? That's what causes the real damage. Because while no one's talking about it, so many are living it. Quietly. Alone. With questions they don't feel safe to ask and feelings they don't know how to name. That's how a man who survived a war, built a life, raised children, and held his world together for decades ends up sitting in a doctor's office, ashamed to ask if it's still okay to touch himself. And that should never happen. You see, when you've spent a lifetime carrying the weight of responsibility, of image, of unspoken pressure, it's easy to forget that you're still a human being, with needs, with desires, with a body that still wants to feel alive. And yet so many older men tell me the same thing: I thought that part of my life was over. Not because of illness. Not because of lack of interest. But because no one told them it was okay to keep feeling. Walter, Roy, Ernest, Howard, they all believed at one point that they had aged out of desire. That after a certain age, pleasure became inappropriate. Intimacy became indulgent. And masturbation? That was for young men, not gentlemen. But the truth, the honest truth, is that none of that is real. What's real is your body still responds to kindness. What's real is your mind still reacts to touch. What's real is your nervous system, your hormones, your emotional landscape. Every part of you is still seeking connection. And when you deny yourself that connection, not because you want to, but because you think you're supposed to, you don't become more mature. You become more lonely. That's why this conversation matters. That's why I show up here. Not just as a doctor, but as a witness to what happens when men finally get permission to stop hiding and start healing. Because yes, masturbation can support your biology, your prostate, your blood flow, your sleep. But more importantly, it supports your spirit. It reminds you that you are still here. Still responsive. Still capable of closeness, joy, and comfort. I've had patients who spent years thinking their body was broken. That they were broken. But when they finally dared to reconnect, gently, slowly, with presence, they discovered not just sensation, but a whole part of themselves they thought was gone forever. So, if you're watching this now and feeling something stir inside, curiosity, sadness, maybe even hope, I want you to know, that's not weakness. That's aliveness. That's the part of you that hasn't given up. That's the part of you that still wants to feel. And it deserves your attention. This isn't about becoming someone you used to be. It's about honoring who you are now. With the body you have. With the life experience you carry. With the wisdom you've earned. Masturbation, in this light, isn't a guilty pleasure. It's not a leftover habit from youth. It's not even really about sex. It's about relationship. With yourself. With your body. With your sense of worth. When done mindlessly, it can become hollow. When done with intention, it can become healing. Like breathwork. Like meditation. Like prayer. A ritual of coming home to yourself. And in a world that often tells older men to disappear, to fade into the background, to stop feeling, stop wanting, stop being, this ritual becomes revolutionary. You are not done. You are not invisible. You are not broken. And you are certainly not alone. If you've made it this far into the video, I want to thank you, not just for your time, but for your courage. Because it takes guts to stay with a conversation that most people avoid. It takes strength to reflect on a topic surrounded by stigma and silence. But you did it. That alone makes you a part of a rare kind of strength, not the kind that resists feeling, but the kind that leans in. And now I want to ask you something personal. What truth in this video struck you the most? Which one made you pause? Reflect? Feel something real? Leave a comment below. Share your story. Let me know which truth resonated with you the deepest. I read every single one, and I promise you, your voice matters here. And if you're ready to keep learning, keep growing, keep honoring your body with respect and presence, subscribe. Turn on notifications. Because I create every video on this channel with one goal in mind, to help men over 60 reclaim the health, dignity, and vitality they've always deserved. You see, your health isn't just physical. It's emotional. It's relational. It's spiritual. And yes, it's sexual too. That's not something to hide. That's something to honor. So whether you're single or partnered, active or rediscovering your path, I want you to know, you belong here. You are welcome here. And this journey, you don't have to walk it alone. If there's someone in your life, a friend, a brother, a neighbor, who might benefit from this message, send this video to them. You never know how powerful a simple conversation can be. Let's be the generation that breaks the silence. That lifts the shame. That gives the next generation of men permission to age with strength, sensuality, and self-respect. You deserve the truth. You deserve the support. And more than anything, you deserve to feel alive again. Thank you for watching. We'll talk soon.